All right, so the question is, Mark, in your updates, you still say, hey, look out for $14,000. What are you talking about, bro? We're not going back to $14,000. This is the question. You get it every now and then over the past month, month and a half, just in the past month, month and a half. And if you read very carefully what I write, I very specifically say, if you wait for that price, you could be waiting forever. If it does happen, it'll be like something like, back in March 2020 or towards the end of 2015, where it's just like you have this big moment. God forbid Tether collapses, but more likely or more realistically, not realistically, but Tether is a very low probability, but will be a massive, massive thing. But like Binance, Huobi, some other large exchange goes down, people panic, or there's some sort of fracas with some DeFi protocol. Who knows? It could be anything, right? Tron, TRX, anything that happens on Tron. We don't know. I'm not saying that this stuff will happen. But it is realistic when you look at it from a technical perspective, even when you look at it just on simple math. 14,000 is not unreasonable, but it would have to be that type of like serious event. It's realistic. I would say it's a low probability event, but it is realistic. God forbid, war breaks out. God forbid, who knows? We just don't know, which is even less probability. But the point is not so much that you think about 14,000. It's not a prediction. I don't do predictions, but we can project out some consequences if certain things happen. And that I do all the time. And 14,000 is one of those things for a variety of reasons that I've talked about in the past outside the scope of this video. I think the more important thing is to remember that, a lot of times in this market, people dismiss really realistic possibilities and get wrapped up in these possibilities they're like very pie in the sky. And so I'd rather flip it on its head. Let's think about things that are realistic, and then the pie in the sky stuff, we don't have to worry about that. Historical examples, I don't know how long you've been in the market. Like, for example, if you go back to 2021, I can't tell you how many people were like, it's never going to crash. Institutions will never let it crash. Okay, maybe it'll go down like 30%, but we're never going to go down 50%. And I was like, guys, I think at the time, I even said, we get down 50% and it'd still be in an upward trajectory. It would still be like, if you look at it in a chart and just draw a line in the direction of that the price is going, we could have dropped 50% and we're still in an uptrend. 50% in a bull market, never dismissed that, but people, like, they could not get it through their head. Like, it was impossible to imagine. That was when Supercycle was big, or like closer to the end of 2022. It's probably when you came in. People were talking about $288,000. People were talking about the flippening, Ethereum flippening. I'm like, yeah, I think at some point, sure, we can talk about $288,000 Bitcoin. At some point, we can talk about flippening, but certainly not back then. That's like pie in the sky stuff. And even now, well, I don't think anybody's saying 288, but even now you hear people talk about the flippening. We'll talk about the flippening when when the ETH BTC chart shows that it's anywhere near where its all-time high against Bitcoin back in June 2017. June 2017. Ethereum has spent the past 6 years making lower highs against Bitcoin. And you're talking about flippening? We'll talk about flippening once the trend starts to reverse. The long-term trend starts to reverse. And then maybe it's realistic. 288,000 too. Maybe in a few years that becomes realistic. But in the moment, people were so adamant. So I just don't want to get in that cycle of believing these things that are really not realistic and dismissing things that are realistic. So it's not a prediction. I'm not trying to scare people. I'm not trying to say, hey, don't put money in because we're going to go down here. It's not that at all. But let's just make sure we don't get so complacent. Your complacency kills. You can make up for bad timing, but complacency kills. So let's not be complacent. Let's not believe or buy into these, these things that, yeah, maybe at some point they become realistic, but they're certainly not realistic in the moment. Relax and enjoy the ride.